WellView Cement Loader. This is a brief video that describes a new Excel template that can be used to help you get cementing details into WellView. So clients have asked us over the years to find a way to help them load cementing data into WellView. The cement model in WellView is quite complex. It involves 5 different tables for data entry: a summary, stages, fluids, additives, and viscometer details. So what we've built to help this situation is a simple Excel template for the vendors to populate. The reality is that the cementing vendors are already populating some kind of summary. In general, it might be a custom Excel sheet, it might be a Word doc, they might hand you a PDF, but in some way, somehow, they are creating a summary of the cementing data for you. So this is a simple ask for them to fill out a designated WellView template in addition or instead. So I'm going to give you a little demo of this template and some tips about how it can be used. So there are 2 templates, one in US units and one in metric units. So you want to take a look at the units and just ensure that you have the proper units for the region you're working in. This is what the template looks like. It is a 100% match with the WellView data model. So the data that you are expected to fill out is all represented here. So again, what you're going to do is you're going to ask your cementing vendor to fill this out. And they have a few options. If they have software that creates their summary, there's an opportunity for them to write it directly to a WellView file that could be imported. If they are already using their own Excel template, perhaps they could simply set this up and map the data from their template into it. Worst case scenario, they're going to hand enter or copy and paste into this template. But you are offloading that data entry to that vendor. So let me show you some of the data entry at work here. So I'm just going to hand enter it. So imagine that this is ABC, Cementing Company. I put in the well name. This is purely Excel, so Excel functionality. I'll put my name in and use the tab key to go over to API and put that in there too. So for the most part, these are cells that can be typed or copied into. So let's imagine that this is the production casing cement. But there are some cells that have little pick lists defined, like this cement type. This is the list that you're going to see within WellView. This is the hard-coded list for cementing types. So we have incorporated that into the spreadsheet. Actual or designed, also a drop-down. The objective. Okay, for the dates, you'll notice that we put in the desired format here, so they just need to comply with that. So today is July 24th, 2018 at... Now, one thing to note here, the number of stages. By default for this spreadsheet, we're treating this as a 1-stage job. If it in fact has more than 1, so let's imagine it has 2, I want to add in another stage. And when I click on this button, what it does is it creates a second worksheet with the details that are relevant to that second stage. Okay, none of that general information at the top, just what is relevant to that second stage. Okay, so that's how we handle multiple stage job. So I happily type in my data here. Let's imagine that these are the values. I can copy and paste where it makes sense to do so. And I'm just going to go along here and fill in all of these details. Now, for fluids, I want to point out something here. The fluid type that's specified, so for instance, let's say there's lead and tail, is going to populate the fluid types in these tables further down. So when I then go to additives, I will see lead and tail have been populated there. So I'm going to be able to type in the details. If I have multiple additives for lead, then I would add them all in, and then I would define the additives for tail. So this is just how we are tying this data back to the WellView data model. Same deal for viscometer readings. I'm going to see lead and tail here because I had defined those as fluid types. Those are the only tips I have to pass along here. It's basically about filling out this Excel template, and where we can hardwire or put some logic in to help with those little drop downs, we've done so. But apart from that, there's no auditing or QCing happening within this template. It's just meant to be super simple. So the vendor fills out the template. The vendor gives you this template as their summary. And what you're going to do is click on this button to create an XML file. So I'm just going to export this XML file. And now, from within WellView, I'm looking at my cementing report within this well in WellView. I click on Import WellView XML. I browse to that file I just created. And just like that, I have imported in all of these details. So my job isn't done. I've imported this data into WellView, but now I need to QC it. And by QCing it, I mean identifying where there are things that need to be filled out that weren't in the spreadsheet. I also mean validating the values that were put into the spreadsheet. I'm responsible for this data, and I'm going to QC it in WellView. I might choose to use some tools like the auditor to check particularly for what's missing or to make sure that end date's greater than start date. I might also look at the schematic to ensure that everything is linked appropriately. So what this is all about is offloading the data entry to the person who's already doing the data entry in another system, reducing your amount of time with data entry and shifting your role to one of QC and filling out the gaps. Now, in terms of the vendor's role, we have been doing quite a bit of field testing, and this has been successful so far. Some vendors have expressed interest in writing directly to that WellView XML file, and that is definitely a possibility. So now the vendors, the pressure is on them to find ways to make this more efficient for them in order to get you the data you require.